everybody. I'm Kristen.
I'm Rachel.
And this is So I'm Watching Gilmore Girls, Season 2, Episode 19, Teach Me Tonight.
Lorelai's the worst.
Yes.
She is the worst across the board.
Yeah. That is one of those things where it's like when you're young, when I was young, I guess, and I was watching this, I was like, because I didn't want her and Luke to fight, but a lot of the time I was like, she's justified. And the older I get, I'm like, you are a psycho.
Yeah.
How are you behaving this way to the people in your life?
Yeah. It's so weird. Even when she's like doing the whole like, Amy Sherman-Palladino, like blah, 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 whatever. I just want to be like, shut the fuck up. No one cares.
It's
like
too much.
And just like the way that she just like, I don't know if like harangue is the like correct word to use, but like she just is very pushy.
Yeah.
Because even with like, yes, the nurse could have been nicer. I don't know. She came in really, really hot. And it's just like, if you're not supposed to be in the room, shut up.
Okay, so a couple things. I like nurses like that. I always just equate with like that girl from high school. So I'm like, she deserves to take it down a peg.
Yeah.
And like the terms of endearment comment is very funny, which have you ever seen that one? Okay. It's very good. And it would probably hit a little better if you had seen it.
Oh, okay.
But Shirley MacLaine, like Deborah Winger's in the hospital and Shirley MacLaine is like, it's time for my daughter's shot. She's in pain. And the nurse is like, well, I'll be right there. And she's like, it's after the time, and she fucking flips out. And it's like such a good Shirley MacLaine moment. And so people are always like talking about that. So, but on the other hand, I also don't think that Rory told Lorelai, like, I just broke my wrist. So all she knows is that Rory's in the hospital. So she's like elevated higher than she would be.
Okay, but also Rory explained it perfectly well on the phone.
I agree.
And she was like, don't freak out. I'm fine. The fact that she literally called on the phone, it's not even like the hospital called Lorelai. If the hospital had called Lorelai, sure. Go in, fucking on fire, guns a-blazing, whatever. But the fact that, like, she had to listen to Lorelai go on and on about fucking takeout menus before she was like, hey, so, like, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so the gist of this episode is, they are having a like annual movie in the park night, which the fact that they're not doing that more often is kind of weird, but it's apparently like a one night a year thing. So they're having a movie in the park. Taylor is going to show the yearling again, but they've done that for the last 3 years. And so he is just like, you know what? Fine. Lorelai, you pick the movie. And so they have this like huge list of movies that they're going through. And then he brings the book of movies that are like approved and that they can get like a deal on. And it's nothing. The like descriptions that he gives of what they are, it's like a suspense, and then it's like all that, and then it's like man joins the Navy, and it's like the whole thing. It's very funny. So they basically they end up picking the yearling again because it's just easy. It's just the easiest thing to appeal to everybody. And so in the midst of that, Jess is flunking out of school, and so he's gonna have to repeat his junior year if he doesn't do something. So Luke is like, I'll get Rory to help tutor him, and then hopefully, because he likes Rory, he'll listen to Rory, we'll do something like that, we'll nip it in the bud, it'll be fine. I just like, let Jess get his GED. Like,
yeah, I'm gonna step on a soapbox for a minute. The way that we do school is to prepare us to go into the workforce, to sit in like factories and shit. It's not real as far as like making sure that we are educated. Correct. That's what college is for.
Well, sure.
Effectively.
But it's like, but I also think that like not necessarily, like Jess is on par smarts wise with Rory.
Yeah.
And the thing that we are going to come to find out about Rory is that she is smart, but she has to like try to be smart. It doesn't fully come naturally to her. She likes learning and she likes reading. But Jess is more of a sponge than Rory is. Rory has to study.
And it's always those kids. Yeah. Because I've experienced these kids in real life. The ones that are so stupid smart are the ones that end up like acting out because they're not stimulated.
Well, Rory is a gifted kid. And Jess is too smart for the American school education system. Yeah. Like, so that's his whole deal. it's not that he's stupid, it's that he doesn't care.
When I said stupid smart, I meant like very smart.
No, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. But my point is that Jess is not an idiot. He's not failing because he's stupid. He's failing because he does not give a shit.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do the work. He doesn't want to read the books they want him to read. But that doesn't mean that he's not well read.
Yeah, I didn't want to read All Quiet on the Western Front because the picture in my head when I was reading it was gray, and I was like, I can't do this.
This sucks.
But I read outside of school.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't understand why I have to read this thing for me to be like well-educated. It doesn't make sense.
So like something that I think that's interesting that I've just sort of come to realize, discovered recently, is that while I think the curriculum should change, especially with the times, like there's no reason we should still be reading 300-year-old books. Like there are newer things that are significant, and that, you know, like what if some of the authors that we are reading are still alive? Like that would be kind of cool. However, it's one of those things where you're like, I'm never going to need to know what the Pearl is about in my everyday life. That's not the point.
Yeah.
It's like it's to develop the critical thinking skills, and like what's the symbolism behind this pearl with relation to like the baby that's like in the, you know, book and stuff. So that kind of stuff I think is important, though I do think that you can apply those things to newer media. But I think that's the thing that gets lost, where it's like, well, I'm never going to need this in my, and it's like, but you will, because you're going to have to use your critical thinking skills. So while I do agree that like people like Jess are not served by the American education system, he still knows how to do all of that. He could do it if forced. But why are you forcing your child to learn? Like, why are you forcing them into a box when he already knows
why
the answer?
So figure out the section of your syllabus that you are in, like the thing that you are teaching, and then be like, what book would you like to read that we can follow along here, and then tailor it to that.
Well, the other thing that I like too is like, it actually happens in an episode of Parks and Recreation when Andy's taking that class pass fail, and he just has to have like a discussion with the teacher.
That literally was on yesterday.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, I was, So that's the thing where I'm like, you can, but that's where it's like, you really just, the American education system is trying to just like push out automatons, just like people who can't have free thinking for themselves, where it's like, I think it's why I actually kind of like Montessori school programs, because you should be tailoring your education to the child.
Agreed.
Because, and again, Jess is, he is like 17, but he's not like a child, you know? He like has enough free will to know what he does and doesn't want to do. And that's where I'm just like, just let him take the GED.
Yeah.
Clearly school is not going to do it for him.
And also you have to consider the lives that these kids are living outside of school, because if you are in a very parentified position and you were experiencing adult themes as a kid, you speed up a little bit, and then it's like, you know, you're given kind of like this baby work, and you're like,
what
why?
The hell?
Like, I've experienced this 10 times over in 10 times worse ways. Why do I have to go like start at stage 1? And it's like, I've already done this already.
Well, and then again, not for nothing, I'm like so glad there are people in the world that like math. I have never used 1 ounce of high school math.
You know what I remember?
In my life.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's what I remember. Just that.
Yeah, I still don't know how to put that into effect.
I mean, no.
It's algebra, right?
Yes. This is the parentheses. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction.
Yeah. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. No, but that's just so basically, I feel the principal is very biased against Jess.
Yep.
I feel also the teacher isn't necessarily biased against him, but when he just like he comes to class late, he takes the book out and has to borrow a pen from Lane, and then just starts making notes in the margins as opposed to taking the test. And she just rolls her eyes at him. And it's like, I understand that once you get to a certain point with a student, you're just like, well, I can't do anything for you. You're not trying.
Mm-hmm.
But also, that's where I'm sort of like, if we weren't so rigid within these confines of what we can do in the education system, the teacher or the principal could recognize that he is a smart person. It's just the like, you know, he's disinterested in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, as the principal or the teacher, would be like, "What? How do you feel about getting your GED instead?"
Mm-hmm. Or like walk over. What book are you writing in?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to take a quiz on that? Like,
or like,
or
let's
write out an essay.
Yeah.
About the major theme in this book.
Or to be quite fucking honest, let me read the notes you're putting in the margin.
Yeah.
Like, it just drives me nuts. This is such a long-winded, like, way to say that I hate the American education system, but it's broken.
Yeah, and I mean, and
like, lots of kids are getting left behind.
Very left behind. Yeah, I don't know, I figured out very early how to kind of, like, charm my teachers into just kind of letting, like, I would do the work, but then I'd be like, you don't really, like, want this, right? And then we would, like, figure something out, or I would do something instead where it was just like, this is much more up my alley, but it's still kind of like under the umbrella of things, because I got to the point with a lot of my teachers where it was like, they trusted me to kind of like,
to get it.
Yeah. And it's like, there should be more teachers like that, where it's like, as long as you're getting I'm having a hard time making my brain work right now because it's like cold medicine. But like, as long as you're getting the theme or like the section of like whatever that we're working on, it doesn't matter if it's not the same book that everyone else is reading.
The problem is that everybody now has to teach to the test.
Yes,
and
which
so
sucks.
It's not about learning anymore, which is like, I love learning.
Me too. If you're not learning, you're dead.
I like reading. I like learning. I love finding out new things about the world or, you know, life or whatever. I actually just put on my story, there was this interview with Ethan Hawke, and he was like, nobody generally gives a shit about poetry. And he was like, nobody's just like sitting there reading Allen Ginsberg for like no reason. But then, you know, you like lose your job, or you lose a kid, or you mom dies, or your heart gets broken, and then all of a sudden you are like desperate to find something that resonates with you and like makes you feel something, and like you're not alone, and tries to help you like get through this thing. And so that's where I'm just like, the way that we teach is to the exclusion of feeling.
Yeah.
And being interested in it. And so it's like, it's something that, because I was not the same as you in school, I was very like, I have to do it, and it has to be right, and I have to give it to the teacher, and they have to know that I did it right. And also I was scared of my dad and getting bad grades. So that's just kind of the thing where I'm like, I didn't come to this kind of realization until I was much older. And then I was like, oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
And like, it made me not want to do stuff because I was scared that I was going to do bad. It's just,
I mean, I definitely still had that fear, and I still got my work done. Excuse me, got my work done. I was still afraid of my dad and like needed to get good grades, but I knew that I could get what they needed from me without having to do the whole boring way.
Sure.
Where I was like, if we can make this fun, why not make it fun?
We should really be making this fun. Yeah. That long dissertation about education is only to say that Luke asks Rory to tutor Jess to just try to get him through a couple of tests to see if he can keep going. And Lorelai is immediately doing so much. She's like, it'll get in the way of Rory's studies, like blah, blah, blah. She still thinks Jess is a super bad influence. Yeah. It's really annoying. And Luke is like, well, I just like, you know, he'll listen to her, and like he likes her. And if I hire a tutor, he's just going to
do the exact same thing.
Dick around with the tutor. It's not going to do anything. He's totally right. And also, he's like, I know Rory's so into school that like she won't let this get in the way of her studies. Like it won't take too much time. And so Lorelai ends up allowing it, and he also bribed her with brownies with 3 times the amount of cocoa powder in them, which I love when she tastes it and she's like, oh my God. And then she's like, huh, pretty good. And she keeps eating it. It's so funny. So they end up like sitting in the diner, and he is just doing like a bunch of close-up magic to her again.
So it's so charming and yet so weird.
It's so lame. It's just like really, really lame. So the apple thing is sort of cute. She's very charmed by that. But then when he tries to get her to do or to do a card trick, she just grabs the cards and throws them on the
She plays 52 pickup.
And he's like, well, that's going to make it a lot harder. So basically, he is still very unwilling. They are talking about books and stuff, like, a little bit, but she is just like, what is the matter? Like, why are you not doing this? So finally, he spots her car outside, and he's like, okay, let's go get ice cream, and when we get back, I promise I'll study. And she's like, you swear? And he's like, yeah. And so they go out to get ice cream, because he's into her car. He's into I mean, it's cute. It's a great car. So they go get ice cream. And he also has to convince her to go out and get ice cream because it's better in a cone. And Luke doesn't have cones, even though he has ice cream. So they have a really cute talk. He finally tells her in the car, he's like, high school doesn't matter because I'm not going to college. And it's like, you should have a high school education. But it's like, he does have he has the high school education he needs, because, spoiler alert, he is not going to get, like, an office job. Yeah. That's not Jess's deal. While they're out, he says that, and she's like, I mean, you're just so smart, like, I don't understand all this stuff. And that's when he's like, it just doesn't really matter for me. Like, that's not the point. And he has internalized all of these people, like the principal and his mom and Lorelai, basically telling him that he's garbage. Yeah. And he's like, so what's the point? You
tell someone enough that they're a piece of shit, they absolutely will believe that they are. And then he's just like, well, everyone already thinks I'm a piece of shit, so why be anything different?
He's just living up to expectations at this point. And so that's the kind of shit that I especially hate, because...
Also, okay, he's a kid. Yeah. He is a kid. I mean, teenagers fucking suck. Yeah. But, like, at the end of the day, he is still a kid whose mom did not want to take care of him anymore.
And sent him away.
Yes. Like, if he's fucking annoying, like, that's one thing. He's not set a building on fire. No. He hasn't killed anyone. Yeah. He just has a bad fucking attitude.
Exactly.
But it's like he has
like every other 17-year-old boy?
Right, exactly.
Dean also has a bad attitude. Yes, it's just in a different direction.
Disgusting. I fucking...
He wasn't even in this episode, and you're so mad.
No, I hate him. Just because I just hate him. Yeah. Well, because we were managing expectations for Dean. Yeah. Even though he's not there, I just hate it. Because,
so Dean's visiting his grandmother, and so when Rory is sitting down to tutor Jess, she's like, hey, to Lorelai, she's like, if Dean calls, will you just tell him I'm with Lane? And that Lorelai immediately is just like picking at that. Well, if you know Dean wouldn't like it, then should you really be doing it? And Rory's like, we're just studying. And it's like,
no, I have to manage his expectations so I don't get in trouble, because he is emotionally immature and will make it my fucking problem.
100%.
Instead of me recognizing that I'm doing a good thing because someone will listen to me.
And someone's struggling.
Yes. And I am the person that can help them. It's just disgusting.
That's why Dean and Lorelai get along, because both of them would be like, just let him drown.
Yeah.
Which is gross. It's so gross.
Because it's like, absolutely, you can only go so far, like, before you have to create a boundary. If I'm constantly putting my hand out to help you and you don't take it, there is a point that I will take it back.
Of course.
Especially if I'm the one that starts being hurt, I'm absolutely going to take my hand back. But knowing full well that we see these moments where he is connecting to Rory, why would we not try?
The other thing, too, Jess says something specifically in the car where he's like, your mom doesn't know me that well, but I'm sure she'd have some choice things to say. And I'm like, the only thing that Jess has done that Lorelai directly witnessed and knows about 100% that he actually did is the first night with Suki.
Yep.
She has absolutely no proof that he took that bracelet.
Yep.
No proof. And he didn't. It's not like he ripped it off of Rory's wrist.
No.
It fell off. So that's the thing where it's like, he as good as admitted it when he was like, well, she hasn't noticed it's gone for 2 weeks. So like, what does that say about your precious Dean? So he as good as admitted it. But like, she actually didn't see him stick it under her bed.
Right. She's just completely told herself a story about who this kid is.
Yeah.
And it's just fucking rich because she was Jess.
Yeah.
She is Jess.
Like opposite Jess, but yeah.
But still, and it's like
mirror Jess.
Yeah, and I mean, you're never really ready to see the mirror image or like version of yourself.
Yeah.
And you tend to hate that when you see it. But also, again, Lorelai is a full fucking adult. And he is a kid.
A child. Yeah.
Incredible.
The same age as her daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she also goes to the point where it's like, Well, Rory's just a kid. You have to decide if she is mature enough to handle X, Y, and Z, or if she's too naive and doesn't know any fucking better.
100%.
It doesn't get to go both ways.
You can't have it both ways.
Yes.
So, okay. So basically they're still driving around and Jess is like, I guess we should get back. If I could just keep going straight, we'll be back at Luke's. And he's like, or I could turn right and we'd just be driving around in a circle for like a while. And Rory says, turn right. Mm-hmm. And he says, as you wish, which is, I'm just saying.
Uh-huh. Oh, I know.
So that's when the next thing we get, they've been in a car accident. Rory has a fractured wrist, having been a person who broke both my wrists at separate times. It's not that bad. I don't even remember it hurting. I'm sure it did, but I have no memory of pain.
I've wrecked 2 cars, and my parents didn't wait. I've wrecked 2 cars, but I've had 3 accidents, because one of them, I kind of like had an accident twice. But neither one of those times did my parents freak the fuck out.
Well, were you injured?
No.
Okay.
But my car, the hell was.
Sure, of course. And so, like, the car is in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
And Rory has broken her wrist. She is the entire time saying, Jess waited until, like, I was okay before he even talked to the cops. Like, all of this, like, I'm okay. Everything's okay. Just the car is a little beat up. And it was also an animal. He wasn't driving erratically. There was some kind of animal, and then they hit, like, a tree or a pole or whatever.
Yes. I was always told an animal can move, a tree cannot.
Sure.
So it's like, never swerve, just
gun it.
Or not gun it, but like, if you can stop, sure, but like, don't swerve.
Yeah.
So that's why I ended up with a deer in my car.
Hey. And so basically it's going to be like an hour before she can get the cast on. So Lorelai decides to take that time to hunt down Jess and also scream at Luke for like and the thing is too, is again, it's to your point where it's like Jess is also a child. And so Jess was driving, which again, I get it. That is where, you know, the blame lies, is with the person that's driving. However, he is also a kid, and
that's why accidents are called accidents.
Exactly. And so she has just like blinders on about the fact that Luke's kid is missing after a car accident. And that's where I'm just like, Lorelai, you are the villain of this piece. Do you you don't see that you're the villain of this piece? Like, I know you're worried about Rory, but Jess is a child. And the fact that Luke is worried about, she gets mad at Luke for worrying about his own kid as opposed to Rory. And he's like, I'm sorry she got hurt, but you know where she is. And I don't know where Jess is.
And she is acting like, you know, Rory could have internal bleeding and all this other stuff. She's asking for all this extra stuff being done, even though she literally just has a fractured wrist. Who's to say that, like, Jess thought he was fine, but he has an actual,
and
like,
he has a concussion and he fell down in the woods.
Yes, and he's, like, fucking dead somewhere. And it's just, it's so, you be mad later. Once you have everyone there and everyone's accounted for and the dust has settled, then you can be like, are you fucking serious, my guy? And then you can lay into him and be like, come on, like, do better than that. But also, you can't help. And I even referenced, I was like, didn't a deer run into Rory, like, on her way to school? Shit happens, man. You know, like, we can't control the animals. And also, just shit happens in cars. Like, that's the risk you take by having a vehicle.
By driving a car. 100%. And so Luke gives it right back to her, too.
As he fucking should.
Yeah. And so they're in a big fight for, like, a minute. And when she sees Rory's car getting towed back to Gypsy's, she decides to call Christopher.
I thought she was going to call Dean. I really did.
No, that's so, I mean, I know that
I don't know, their relationship is so weird.
I know that their relationship is so inappropriate, but that is like a new level of inappropriate. You have to come back from your grandmother's. Like,
Dean, I have something to tell you.
Ew, Barb.
Yeah, no, I feel like I feel like it would have happened.
So she calls Christopher, and then, like, they are both sleeping in Rory's room, and they wake up and they have, like, a whole talk. He's deciding he's going to come, you know, spend more time. He can't be there a super long time right now. He's got to get back for Sherry, but he wants to spend more time. So the only other real thing that's happening in this episode is Kirk has made a short film, and he would like it screened before The Yearling. And it is fucking hilarious. It's so weird. Marilyn Rice-Cup is in it. She plays Kirk's girlfriend. I just don't even know. I think you should just watch it. I think you should just go find it and watch it.
What is the movie that I said it looked like? Is some French movie where like it's like the angel. He's like playing chess with an angel.
Oh no, it's he's playing chess with death.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. I don't remember what it is. The Seventh Seal. So yeah, it is kind of. It's
never seen it, but I know that part.
It's black and white. It's like a whole thing. It's very funny. The cuts are really silly and weird, and it's just such a Kirk thing. And by the end of it, he's like breakdancing to some weird song. I love I love everything about it. It is so hilarious to me. Yeah, and so then basically after Luke lays into Lorelai, he knows where Jess is because he's on the bridge. And he goes and finds him, and Jess is like very distraught. You can tell he's very upset about what happened, and he was like, I made sure she was okay before I left. And he's like, I know you did. Because I love that Luke loves him too. He's like, Luke is not equipped to raise Jess, but he loves him, and he's like, and that's one of the things he said to Lorelai. He was like, he's my family. I have an obligation. And then she's all like, you have an obligation to me in this town and Rory and like blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but like,
again, he's not setting the place on fire and like attacking people. He is just he's a teenage menace.
He's a teenage boy who had a car accident.
Yeah, it's so weird to me.
It's bonkers.
I know so many. I was a teenager that got into car accidents. Like, that's just what you fucking do in small towns because there's nothing to do.
Sometimes it happens.
We hate the kids in this neighborhood because they are menaces.
They're not teenagers yet either.
No, but we know.
I know they will be.
Oh, yeah.
Especially those little white boys.
I know. Oh, I know.
They are feral.
Yeah.
Their mom makes them run next to the car to get to the bus stop.
Probably to get some of that energy out.
100%. And then they sprint home after the bus. And I'm like, how is there anything left?
My mom used to make Dawson and Christopher run around the house when they had too much energy. She'd be like, go outside and go run 3 laps.
Amazing. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this episode. At the end, Patty and Babette are talking, and they basically let slip that Luke took Jess to the bus station, and he has gone back home to New York.
With what stuff? All of his stuff is at Luke's.
Yeah.
Great. So now he gets to just be a homeless kid?
He comes back.
Well, I would hope so.
Also, I mean, I think he stays with his mom when he goes back. We still don't meet her yet, but I am assuming he stays with Liz again.
But still, there's like, you have to consider, I mean, granted, this is just how my brain works. It's like, well, he's probably still pissed at his mom, so obviously he's not going to go to his mom, so he's just going to be on the street.
Yeah.
Well, that's how what actually happens with so many kids who end up homeless because they don't have anywhere to go.
Well, we'll find out what he's up to in 2 episodes.
2? Okay.
Yeah. The next one is about Richard again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that is, like I said, largely it. Not much else. This is like a pretty contained episode. I think I said Christopher wants to like spend more time around, so we're going to get into a little bit of that as well. But
Unhinged, by the way, that his phone call time is 6:45 a.m.
Yeah, before Rory goes to school.
That's so weird. Call at the end of the day, you freak.
5-ish. Yeah.
Oh, that's so strange.
Yeah, super weird. All right, so Lorelai's made up with Christopher, but now she's in a fight with Luke.
I can't stand her.
It's like it's only in certain circumstances. Because in this episode, I'm like, this is beyond reproach, beyond the pale. Sorry, it's very reproachful. It's just like, how do you act like that? Like, how do you expect Luke to ever speak to you again? Like, obviously you were in a heightened state of emotion, but like, you were really laying some stuff out that, like, in my opinion, is sort of unforgivable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know.
She's just kind of, for me, across the board, she is just someone that I do not like.
Well, so, I mean, sure. I think in real life, I would not want to hang out with a person like her. But I do think, like, I like a lot of her stuff with Rory, and I think that her stuff with Emily is very interesting, and I actually love the relationship she has with Richard. So it's like, but that's all within her family. Like, I think she treats people outside her family kind of like props.
Agreed.
In the Lorelai show.
She is very akin to Carrie Bradshaw.
A little. I see it.
Mm-hmm.
I see it for sure.
Not so much that she is like the anti-hero, because Carrie Bradshaw very much is an anti-hero. Yeah. But she is very main character energy, and those types of people are insufferable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
which is why once Rory gets to college, we kind of have it shift so that they both are. They like both have main character energy, and it's like. Ugh.
And like, don't get me wrong, you should absolutely be in the main character of your story, but don't make it everyone else's problem.
That's it. Which you can't be the main character of other people's stories.
Exactly.
And that's I think where I said she treats other people like props, where it's like in this episode Luke does not behave the way that she wants him to behave. Mm-hmm. And so that's wrong to her. And she's like, you're only supposed to be concerned with me. And it's like he has an entire child that is dependent on him for life and food. And if that child has got, like, he's gonna face the consequences of not keeping Jess alive if something actually happened to Jess.
It's giving Tom Sandoval.
It is giving Tom Sandoval.
Disgusting.
It's a Tuesday right now, so it's the part 1 of the Vanderpump finale, or, reunion. I don't know why I'm still excited. It's gonna be fucking horrible.
We're gonna be so angry.
All right. That's it for us. Let us know what you think. Like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye!
Bye!